Welcome back to Mr. News Art Class. It's wonderful to see your smiling faces today. Last week, we learned several different ways for creating your very own Zentangle doodles or patterns. Today, I want to carry on with that theme and talk about a few different tools that you can use to create even more different types of patterns. So as I was going over this, it dawned on me that last week I told you I was going to use auras in my third pattern, and I never did. So, I'll go ahead and jump right in here and do that. An aura is simply when you wrap around a shape and you follow the contour of the inside shape while you're making an outline around it. And there you have it. That's one aura wrapped around there. I could make more and more, depending on what I want to do with it. If I want this to fill the whole space, I could keep going with those auras all the way until I get to the edges. Or if I want to keep it in a localized area and then put different patterns around it, I can leave it as it is. So in last week's video, the three different tools that we used were stems, rotations, and auras. The three different types of patterns we learned about, which are going to stay the same this week, were a path-following pattern, a branching pattern, and a filling pattern where we filled the whole space. Today, we want to keep on the same idea of using the three different types of patterns, each one with a basic shape and its own value. But instead of using these three tools, today we're going to use juxtaposition, resizing, and then combining several tools together. Juxtaposition is a concept I talked about in my very first How to Draw a Zentangle video. I'll link that up here in the card and down in the description. But I want to talk a little bit more about that, what it means and how to do it, how to think about it. Juxtaposition is kind of a way of making contrast by having two things that are very different right next to each other. And the way we want to think about that is picking basic shapes that fall into two different categories. The two different types of shapes that I want to talk to you about are organic shapes and geometric shapes. Organic shapes are anything that is curvy or wiggly. Geometric shapes are any shapes that use straight lines. And having the two of those right next to each other, curvy shapes and straight line shapes, ends up creating really interesting negative spaces and interesting little effects where they go next to each other. To demonstrate this, I'm going to pick triangles and circles as the shapes that I want to use in this pattern. And I'll go ahead and use a fill pattern that fills this whole area. And why not? Let's do sort of a medium dark value. Since I want a medium dark value, I'm starting with my larger size pen. This is an 08. If you're using Sharpies or something like that, use a bigger pen or a bigger marker. And there's lots of ways I can do this. I could either put one of my shapes in the foreground and the other one in the background behind it, or I could have the two different types of shapes alternating back and forth right next to each other, or all sorts of different ways I could think about it. But right now I'm just trying to come up with an interesting way of putting a circle and a triangle together to make a pattern. So the idea that just came to me just now was to use little circles together to create like a dotted line that wraps around a triangle. And then I'll do the same thing again and again and again. And I think that's all the triangles I want to make, but I do want to, like I said, darken up the pattern, make it a medium dark pattern. So I'm going to go into the background and alternate straight lines and wavy lines across the background. Or I could do lines that are straight in the background but then wiggle in the foreground. Actually, I might do that. Now here, even though it's all got the same value to the whole image, you can definitely see those standing out because they've got a much different type of shape. These curved circles and the curves of the wiggly lines stand out against these straight lines in the background because of juxtaposition. And next let's move on to resizing, which is exactly what it sounds like, just changing how large or small something is. And what we'll do here is we'll keep in line with, we've got fill patterns on the left, we'll do pathfinding patterns in the middle, and we'll do branching patterns on the right. So this one will be a pathfinding pattern, and let's use rectangles for it, and let's make it a medium to light, not perfectly light, but a little bit darker for the value. If I'm going to be starting with a path, just like I did here in last week's video, I might choose to start with a pencil line, or I might not. I think I will make it into a sort of looping line. Since I'm wanting it to be a mostly light pattern, I'm starting with my small size pen. This is an 005. If you're using Sharpies or something like that, just get the ultra fine point. Now, whenever you've got a path and you're using a shape that's long, like a rectangle, it would make perfect sense to have that rectangle point in the direction of the path. So I'm going to do rectangles that go the same direction as the path. And I think this pattern is going to end up looking very similar to one that I drew in a previous video with squares, but I'm going to end it kind of differently than that one just to make sure that I don't do the same thing over and over again. And now there's a good start. Those rectangles follow along the path. And now I know some of you are thinking, wait a minute, hold the phone. Those rectangles are not rectangles because they're curving, and rectangles can't have curved lines. And you would be right if you were in a math class, but this ain't math class. This is Mr. New's art class. When you're in a math class, do what your math teacher says. When you're in art class, make art. It's okay for my rectangle to be curved. Just imagine it was a steel bar and Superman bent it in half. It's okay. Now, to add a bit of value but keep these very light, what I'm going to do is come in here with a pencil and just apply a little bit of shading to it. And as you can probably tell from the camera, the one thing about graphite from a pencil is that it's shiny. So depending on which way you angle it or turn it, it'll actually end up being reflective instead of being a dark shade. And so that is one thing that kind of actually helps to give it two different values. I think I've actually shaded it more of a medium value, but if you get the angle correct and the light shines on it, it'll actually bump it down into a much brighter value, sometimes even brighter than the paper. So that's just one really cool effect that you can get. It kind of makes it shimmery if you use a regular pencil. And for this last pattern, combining is just what it sounds like. We're going to combine several of these other tools. Now, we can pick and choose which ones we want to combine in advance, or we can just let them kind of come to us as we go. Again, there's no wrong way to make Zentangles, but if you're into planning, or just for the sake of being able to explain what I'm doing as I go, I'm going to make a plan. And what I'm going to do here is go for another super dark value like I had here. I want to make a branching pattern like I did here. And maybe the tools that I want to use, I want to have something with stems, something with auras, and something with juxtaposition. Maybe I'll put all three of those tools together into one pattern. So what I think I might do is actually start with the same concept I had here, of having these stems with their triangle-y ends, but instead of having them kind of all come up, I think I want them all to come out from a corner, or in from a corner. Maybe I'll have them go this way. And after I've got one of those drawn, I'm going to make the next one branch off from the first one. Stems and branching go together quite naturally. Now, right away, I already have juxtaposition, because even though I didn't talk about it in this pattern on the last video, it's got curvy lines and straight lines. And these branches, these stems that have those curvy lines, definitely create very interesting negative shapes between them, especially because of these harsh triangles right next to them. But I want to add another layer of juxtaposition by maybe changing what I do inside here. Instead of little triangle-y lines like I did there, maybe I'll do something like ovals inside of these. And I really love the way that turned out. That is awesome. I believe that I said auras was the other pattern tool that I wanted to use. So what I think I want to do next here is decide, do I want to do an aura that goes around this whole shape altogether, or do I want an aura that just goes around the triangles, or do I want my auras to just go around the stems? I can do it any which way I want. I think I want to just have the auras go around the triangles and not around the stems. I think that might make it a really interesting background. And now that's with just one aura, and it's already starting to get really complicated, trying to figure out where exactly that aura goes and what's an aura and what's not an aura, which is fine, because one of the things I wanted to do was make that pattern really dark. So what I'm going to do is actually go back in and darken up that aura. That'll make it a little easier to make the next aura. And now there you can see I made one black aura around all of the triangles, and that really is starting to make not just the triangles but also these stems really pop out. So I think what I want to do is finish off the rest of the background with alternating auras, and they're going to be black and white and black and white. Or actually, instead of alternating auras black and white and black and white, I may just leave that one white aura and then do the whole rest of the background black. As a matter of fact, that will really darken up the space a lot more, and I think that's actually the way I want to go. And there we have 3 new ways for designing your very own doodles. I hope that you've learned something and maybe been inspired to create some of your own doodle patterns. If you have any questions about any of this, leave a comment down below, or if there are other types of patterns you want to learn about, leave those in a comment section too. If you want more videos about Zentangle patterns, click the link in the card or down in the description for my Zentangle tutorial playlist, which has new videos coming out every Sunday, just like this one. And if you want to learn other art concepts outside of the Zentangle-y, doodly stuff, like how to draw 3-dimensional spaces, or how to draw faces, or how to draw pretty much anything that you're looking at, check out my playlist for weekly art advice. Again, there's a link in the card or down in the description below. As always, I'll leave a link in the description with all the supplies that I've used today. And those links are affiliate links, which just means that if you click on those and buy those items. You get the same price that everybody else does, but I just get a small percentage, which helps me keep making these videos for you. Thanks again for joining me. Again, I really hope you learned something and got inspired. And remember that if you ever get frustrated or disappointed with any of these art concepts, just always remember that you don't have to be the best. Just do your best.